Oh, and that's why I'm here in Japan. The old geezer Odin laughed in the VIP room on the top floor of my family abode. It sounded like he had business in Japan, and so he decided to drop by our town. Given that this area was under the protection of demons, angels, and fallen angels alike, it was apparently a comparatively safe place to stay. Can you hear me up there in heaven, Grandpa? This is amazing. A god had come to visit my house. Every member of the Grimoire Familia had gathered in the house, as Azazel had joined us for the first time in a while as well. In the end, my date with Akeno had come to a premature conclusion. We had ended up rejoining the Preds and the others before leading Odin back to the Hyoto residence. Akeno looked disappointed, but she seemed even more troubled by the encounter with her father. She was clearly in a bad mood. Her usual smile was nowhere to be seen. Even though they were in the same room, she didn't so much as glance at her father, Barkiel. Akeno's hatred for him must have run deep. I had asked Azazel in passing once what kind of man Barkiel was. Apparently, he was quite a stern warrior sort. Among the fallen angels, he stood shoulder to shoulder with Azazel in strength. It sounded like his attacks packed the biggest punch of any fallen angel, so they were undoubtedly powerful. Please, have some tea, the press said to Odin with a smile. A short while ago, Riaz had pinched my cheek as strongly as she could. I was in for a stern talking to later. When I thought about it, I wanted to turn tail and run. Don't go out of your way from me. But they're as big as I remember. So huge. That damn lecherous geezer. That filthy eye of his kept alternating between staring at the Prez's breast and Akeno's. I would never forgive him if he dared to touch them. The Prez's and Akeno's breasts were mine. Lord Odin, please stop staring at them like that. She's a sister of a demon king. So saying, the Valkyrie hit the old fart over the head with a paper fan. Odin rubbed the back of his head, his eye half closed. Was it really okay for her to hit a Norse god like that, even if it wasn't with a paper fan? That Valkyrie was incredible. You stiff-laced battle axe. Sir Jack's sister is the renowned belle, and calmly to boot. Of course I would look at her knockers. This Valkyrie is my attendant, by the way. Her name's Rosweiss. Thank you for your hospitality during our stay in Japan. It's a pleasure to meet you all. After that geezer's introduction, the Valkyrie, Rosweiss, extended us all a formal greeting. She gave off a different impression now that she wasn't wearing her armor, but she was still undeniably beautiful. Was she around our age, perhaps? She looked like a cool beauty, the kind who dependently set about their work despite their youth. She's a virgin. Been without a boyfriend for as many years as she is old. With a lewd expression, Odin gave us more information than we had all asked for. Rosweiss's face twisted in consternation. That's got nothing to do with anything. It's not like I chose to never have a boyfriend. Do you think I want to be a virgin? You're awful. The stalwart Valkyrie collapsed to her knees. I felt a touch of sympathy for her. It looked like she and I had something in common. I mean, it wasn't like I was girlfriendless by choice or anything. Rosweiss had struck me as a cool and level-headed beauty, but there was a huge gulf between her appearance and her personality. Well, the Battle Maiden industry is going through a bit of a rough spot. Even if they get the looks, a lot of them haven't sprouted yet. The number of heroes have been dwindling lately, and so the Valkyrie's department is going downsized to cut cost. Basically, she wasn't in the best position when she started serving me, understand? Odin explained. Huh? I didn't understand how things worked in the north. Azazel let out a short laugh. We'll watch your back while you're here in Japan. Think of Barkiel as your backup from the Fallen Angels. I've been a little busy lately. I'm out of town pretty often, so Barkiel will keep an eye on things in my place. Indeed, Barkiel added curtly. Wait, is that why we're here too? Are we going to protect Odin?
Still, aren't you a little early, old man? You weren't supposed to get here for a few days yet. You're here to see the Japanese gods, and Michael and Sir Zex are mediating, right? I've been asked to attend to.
Azazel remarked with a cup of tea in his hands. Well, that and the fact that we have been having trouble at home. This upstart stripling keeps criticizing the way I've been doing things. I thought if I move things along before he gets in my way. That's why I want to see the Japanese gods. We've had scant few dealings in the past. Odin let out a sigh as he stroked his long white beard. So, the Norse gods had problems of their own, did they? Well, I suppose it's natural for each faction to have one or two internal issues.
By trouble, I'm guessing you need the Veneer who's after your head. You better not go and bring Ragnarok down on us.
Azazel said with a sardonic grin. All those technical terms flew straight past me.
I don't care about Veneer. Anyway, there's no point talking about it. By the way, Azazel, my boy, I hear the Chaos Brigade is working on increasing their numbers of balance breaker fighters. Scary stuff. I thought that was supposed to be a rare phenomenon.
The members of the Gremir family exchanged startled looks. That was a rapid change of subject. Yet, it sounded like we had been right. The Chaos Brigade was sending all those Sacred Gear users against us to try and unlock their balance breakers.
Oh, they're rare, all right. Those idiots are trying to brute force the infrequent phenomenon in the crudest way imaginable. Anyone familiar with Sacred Gears would realize they could try doing it that way, but they wouldn't actually be stupid enough to attempt it. They've been bombarded with criticism from every other faction. Whether it worked out or not, they wouldn't escape that censure.
That way? What do you mean? I asked.
Rias's report was basically on the money.
Azazel began to explain.
Their strategy is to throw a whole lot of Sacred Gear users against the wall and wait to see what sticks. First, they've been gathering humans with unique secret gears from every corner of the world, abducting and brainwashing them for the most part. Next, they send them out to fight strong opponents. Then they repeat the process until a few Sacred Gear users reach balance breaker territory. Those who get that far are instantly teleported back to their home base. That shadow user you encountered the other day was one of those cases.
We were right. He did reach his balance breaker.
There are certain things none of our factions are ever willing to do, even if we have considered them. I have experimented something similar back before we came to our peace accord. The angel and demon sides would have ganged up on the fallen angels for sure, and it would have been war all over again. None of us wanted that. However, these guys are terrorists, so they're willing to do those extremes.
Basically, if anyone else were to treat Sacred Gear users like that, they would be attacked from every direction. Hold on a minute. Wasn't my training to achieve my balance breaker somewhat inhumane too? I had spent a majority of my summer vacation being chased around by a real-life dragon.
You look like you were thinking your balance breaker training was similar,
commented Azazel. That's because I am, Tish.
Yeah, but you're a demon. You're tougher than the average human, you know.
I still almost died out there.
Ah, well, you're a tough one. We all knew that.
Why do you always have to wave me off? You're awful, Teach. Why was I the only one who had to put up with all this? At this rate, I would become an antisocial delinquent.
Anyway, abducting and brainwashing humans, and then sending them off into battle, on the slim chance they might get stronger, is a strategy employed only by the Chaos Brigade.
What kind of people do you think do something like that? I asked. Azazel continued explaining.
The core of the hero faction is made up of legendary warriors and descendants of famous historical champions. Their physical abilities are about on par with those angels and demons. On top of that, they have their own sacred gears and legendary weapons. They're capable of entering balance breaker modes and possess a god-slaying Longinus. According to our reports, the hero faction prefers not to use Ophus's serpents. So, it isn't clear if they're doing anything to enhance their strength.
Power-ups or not, the hero faction bosses sounded like a formidable enemy. And was it okay for warriors and heroes to resort in such inhumane training methods?
The problem is working out what they're hoping to do with their new balance breaker fighters.
Odin said as he sipped his tea, his relaxed expression completely at odds with the gravity of the situation. The old man must have been quite the optimist. Maybe I could even call him fearless. Just the other day, he faced down a horde of middle to high-class demons entirely by himself. But I guess that was to be expected of a god.
Well, we're still looking into that, so there's no point in speculating right now. More importantly, anywhere you want to go while you're in town, Gramps?
Odin began to wriggle his finger lecherously at the response of Azazel's question.
The Brecht Pub. You know your stuff, Lord of the North. All right, let's get moving. I've had some young ladies from my own group set up with an exclusive lounge here in town. How does a visit there sound? Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's the spirit, Azazel, my boy. You're a man of culture, I see. Get me girls with massive cleavage. I'll fondle them all. Leave it to me, you decrepit old sleazebag. Welcome to Japan. You want to wear a kimono with an obi sash? You've got to try it at least once while you're here. I'll show you the real Japanese spirit. I can't wait. Oh, count me in.
The two of them got themselves worked up that they left the meeting early. What a lecherous, perverted leaders they both were. Can you believe it? That old fart was supposed to be the leader of the Norse gods. To think that not only did the fallen angels choose the sex-obsessed Azazel as their governor, so too was that disgusting Odin, the head of the Norse pantheon. The prince was holding her head in her hands, her brow twitching in apparent consternation. I wanted to beg to tag along, but I stopped myself. That would only infuriate the prince even more. Lord Odin, I'll go with you. Rosvise cried out as he chased after them.
You can stay here. I'll be fine. Azazel will be with me. Stay put, you hear?
I can't. I'm coming. Odin and his Valkyrie continued bickering all the way into the hall. It looked like Rosvise wouldn't take no for an answer. Left behind in the room, we members of the Gremlin Familia, along with Barkule, all let out resigned sighs.
Akeno, we need to talk.
I had just been to the kitchen on the first floor and was making my way back upstairs when I heard a voice. Up ahead, in the corridor of the 5th floor, I found Akeno and Barkule getting into some sort of argument. Don't you say my name like that. Akeno's voice was cold and sharp. It was a tone I had never heard from her before. She looked to be in a bad mood and wasn't wearing her usual smile.
What were you doing with the Red Dragon Emperor? Was that a clandestine meeting?
This was about me. Barkule seemed furious. And a clandestine meeting? That sounds rather old-fashioned. I knew it was rude to eavesdrop, but given I was the topic of discussion, I was even more nervous about leaving. It's my life. What right do you have to meddle in it?
I've heard the rumors. He's a shameless dragon who takes nourishment from women's breasts. People even call him the Breast Dragon Emperor.
Had Barkule misunderstood what we've been doing? Taking nourishment from women's breasts? That was crazy. What kind of weird rumors were people spreading? All I could do was hold my head in my hands at this shocking discovery.
Give me a break, partner. How long do you want to keep torturing me?
Drake began. Will you be quiet? I'm not exactly enjoying this either. I was willing to put up with being called the breast dragon, but how will I be able to show my face in the underworld if people actually believe I feed off of them? Stop crying, Drake. You're going to get me going too. Breasts were supposed to be a side dish, not the main course.
I'm worried that you would let him treat you indecently.
Now I understood. This was simply a father who was worried about his daughter. Oh, hold on. He didn't exactly look like such a bad person. What could have happened between him and Akeno? Don't talk about him that way. Issei is lecherous, but he is also kind and dependable. How can you judge someone based on nothing more than rumors? You're the worst. I knew it. I'll never forgive you. Akeno, she's vouching for me. I was so happy to hear her words that my eyes were growing wet.
As your father,
Barkeo began, but Akeno interrupted. Don't you start acting like a dad now. If you wanted to be my father, why didn't you come back for me? How could you just stand by and let Mama die like that? Barkeo fell silent at this barrage. At that moment, Akeno spotted me in the shadows, our eyes meeting. Issei, did you hear all that? She had found me out. It was my fault for eavesdropping after all. Feeling awkward, I stepped out from the dark. Barkeo's eyes lit up in rage.
How shameless for a man to eavesdrop on a woman. The rumors were all true. All you care about is my daughter's chest. Isn't that right, you cursed breast dragon emperor?
This misunderstanding was getting out of control. I wanted to break down in tears. Akeno's father had got the wrong impression of me. Teach, this guy's your friend, right? Maybe you can help me out. No, that won't work. Knowing Azazel, he would just find this whole misunderstanding hilarious and wouldn't lift a finger to help clear it up. I can see it now.
What? You're saying that the Red Dragon Emperor devours the breast of young ladies, Azazel?
Yeah, that's about it. He blows their clothes clean off in a single touch, and then he whispers soft nothing into their breasts, getting them to talk back to him. You better watch out, Barkeo. Akeno could be next. Oh, don't take it too seriously, Barkeo. Hey, can you hear me? How absurd. He's the physical manifestation of the abstract, an enemy of womankind, a breast-devouring demon. Akeno, curse you, Red Dragon Emperor. I could picture the exchange between the two of them so vividly. Yeah, this was more than possible. What was so scary is how well it meshed with all the rumors. I won't allow it. A wave of holy light coursed down Barkeel's arm. What's happening? Was he about to annihilate me all because of some mix-up? Suddenly, Akeno inserted herself between her father and me and embraced me. Don't touch him. Don't take him away from me. I need him. Just go away. You're not my father. Akeno cried out. Barkeel's whole lightning dissipated at this outburst, and he closed his eyes. Sorry. With that one word, he took his leave. As I watched his well-built frame disappear down the hall, I thought he looked a little sad. Akeno. She was gripping me tightly. She seemed to be holding back a torrent of indescribable emotions. Please, don't say anything. Just let me hold on to you for a little while. Please, Issei. Her voice was trembling. I had no idea what happened between her and Barkeo, but regardless, I gently embraced her. The following day, the members of the Grammary Familia took part of a special event in the Underworld sponsored by the House of Grammary. Yeah, thank you. It was a meet and greet, complete with autograph signings. A long line of fans stretched out in front of us. I was busy scribbling my signature on one of the colored sheets of paper after another and shaking hands with countless children who had come to see us. The kids were overjoyed to receive my autograph, even though my writing in demon script was terribly sloppy. They all broke out in joyous smiles when they shook my hand. "Breast Dragon, you can do it!" They would call out to me. Just watching it all made me feel like weeping in spite of myself. Damn it, I was so moved by all this. If it was for the kids, I would be the Breast Dragon. "Switch Princess's breasts! Switch!" The press was sitting beside me, signing autograph and shaking hands of her fans, when a naughty kid poked at her bosom. "Hey, don't you dare lay your finger on the princess' breasts. They belong to me. Got that?" I screamed in warning. I wouldn't let them touch them. I wouldn't allow anyone to touch them. Those breasts were mine. "Issei, he's just a child. There's no need to get jealous like that. I'll let you touch them later, so calm down," the press said with a sigh. Prez, your breasts are... Yes, please let me touch them later. Evidently, the Switch Princess was popular as well. Huh? There was a long line of women stretching out in front of Kiba. Why couldn't that be me? Kiba's likeness was used for Darkness Night Fang on the TV show. He was one of the bad guy leaders, always dressed up in a fancy suit of armor. I wanted that kind of popularity. I'd forgotten after seeing how happy all the children were to meet me, but the real reason I put up with this nonsense was because I thought it would give me some hot moms. Yet Kiba had already stolen them. Fine, but I was the Breast Dragon. And Konako, with her adorable beast look, was the Hellcat, one of my greatest friends and allies. She apparently didn't mind the role, and she dealt with her fans politely. What a professional. After finishing the autograph session, we all made our way back to the dressing room tent. The event was over. Our mission was complete. Man, I was exhausted. I dispelled my armor, returning to my normal form. No sooner had I done so than a staffer came up to me. "Good work, Master Issei." A young lady, with her hair arranged in a roll down her back, offered me a towel. It was none other than Ravel, Riser Phoenix's younger sister. Ravel, thanks. I took the towel, wiping my sweat from my forehead. Apparently, when she heard that we were participating in this event, she had offered to help out. This will be part of my training, and I think that inspiring all these children is a wonderful thing, so I wanted to help. I'm not doing it for you or the Grammar family, Issei. Odd protests aside, she appeared to be taking her job very seriously. I couldn't say I fully understood Ravel's motives. However, I did know that she was a decent person. When I first met her, she had seemed to be on a bit of a high horse. But now, at least she spoke to me normally. Every now and then, I thought that she glanced my way with admiration in her eyes. But maybe that was my imagination. I'm starting to think that this isn't so bad, giving these Underworld kids something to dream about, I said. The children are going crazy for you, Ravel replied. Yeah, they were all excited to shake my hand. I feel like I got to protect their dreams. I didn't precisely know what I could do for them, but I wanted to be their hero, the Breast Dragon, for as long as I could. Issei, it's time that we made our way back to the human realm, the press called after peeking into my dressing room tent. Oh, right. We're supposed to be watching out for Old Man Odin today. That decrepit leecher had been ordering us around ever since he's shown up in town. He kept on visiting the breast pub, and even repeatedly tried to pick up women while on the street. I wanted to hit him over the head with a paper fan just like Ross Weiss did. We should get going. You've had a long day too, Ravel. Thanks again. Not at all. I'm just learning. Ravel's cheeks turned pink in response to the presence of gratitude. Until next time, then, I said in parting. Yes. Do call whenever you're having another event. I'd be happy to help. With that, the Grammar Familia made its way back home. I couldn't wait until the next event. With our Underworld business completed, and having accompanied Old Man Odin around the town for its Japanese sightseeing trip, Kiba, Gasper, and I were training together in a mock battle. I was in my balance breaker state, racing across the training field in a zigzag pattern, using the propulsion unit on my back. As a knight, Kiba was much faster on his feet than I was, nonetheless.
Boost, 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 boost.
If I multiplied my powers and pushed myself to my limits, I could race past him. The propulsion unit was firing at maximum output as I closed in on Kiba. With a swing of his holy demon sword, he brought my Ascalon head on. We both hurriedly passed each other swiftly, moving in every possible direction. Kiba never gave me an opening to attack. Damn it. Fighting him with a sword had been a bad idea. Kiba was slowly pushing me back, his blade almost coming within range of my armor. The speed of his holy demon sword was increasing steadily. I couldn't fully follow its movements anymore. Once Kiba reached his top velocity, he would come straight for me. Knowing that, my only option was to get in and use my fists. Once more, I ignited the propulsion unit on my back, hurling myself as close to that pretty boy as I could. A short-range body blow. Unlike me, Kiba wasn't wearing any armor. In terms of defense, I had an unmistakable advantage. Not only that, but my attack power was superior too. If I managed to strike him, my victory was all but guaranteed. And yet, the sound of metal on metal rang out. Kiba swung his blade around horizontally, hitting me on the side of the head with the force of a bowling ball. He must have realized what I was trying to do and launched a counter. For a second, probably because of the jolt to my head, my consciousness faded and my vision got distorted. Since Kiba couldn't get a direct blow on me, he had opted for a way to shock my body outside of my armor. His counters were incredibly effective up close. I have fallen victim to them countless times over, as had Zenobia. I was always on alert, but I could never predict from where or how those reversals will come. Kiba was always altering his strategy. I was always on alert. Still, I would have never imagined that he would use the hilt of his blade like that. I had been convinced that moving near enough to punch him would keep him from using his weapon properly, but it looked like I would have been wrong. I wouldn't be able to sustain another blow like that, so I moved to fall back as swiftly as possible. Unfortunately, I quickly discovered that my feet were frozen to the ground and refused to budge. It's an ice-based holy demon sword. Sure enough, the blade in Kiba's hands was made of ice. He had used it to freeze me in place. A second holy demon sword coursing with electricity appeared in Kiba's other hand. A lightning one? Is he planning on using that to shock me through my armor? Sounds like a time for my secret technique. A pair of red dragon wings shot up from my shoulders, each of them clawed like pterodactyls. This was a new ability I could trigger after that whole Juggernaut Drive situation. I still couldn't use them to fly well, but I manipulated them quite dexterously. I moved my wings quickly and precisely, grabbing a hold of Kiba's hands. Alright, now he can't move. You let down your guard, I proclaimed. Now that it was completely exposed, I drove my fist into his stomach. Yet, even though his arms were restrained, Kiba summoned another blade, this time from his right foot, and he attacked with it. How long had he been able to make swords of his feet? Just as my blow was about to collide with his new blade, a heavy sound rang out. That's it. Time's up. Stop. Casper was holding a large bell in his hands, jumping up and down in excitement. Kiba and I halted our attacks before they connected. Our practice matches all had time limits. Kiba and I both fell back, each of us wearing 4 smiles. Today's bout had ended in a draw.
Your training is really too much for me sometimes, Issei.
Kiba admitted with a laugh as he gulped down his sports drink. After our mock battle, we had each said about our individual training regimens. Kiba was taking a break. Meanwhile, Gasper was practicing on his own. He was trying to freeze a little robot Azazel made that was darting around in the air. I released my armor and squatted down beside Kiba, flashing him a wry grin. I might have had insane power when I entered my Juggernaut drive, but I can't use it anymore without dying. Still, if anything would have happened to Ozzy again, no. If any of you were in danger. But even if my Juggernaut drive was off limits, that doesn't mean that I'm out of options. I'll just have to find another way to get stronger. Without inborn talent, all I could do was practice harder and harder. And since I don't have much demonic power, I have to draw on my stamina instead. I won't give up. That's how Cyra came to be the next heir of his family, right? If someone else can do it, why can't I? I have wasted most of my life using my Juggernaut drive, but that didn't mean I would let the remain go to waste. I couldn't afford to let children see me like that either. If the match between the present Cyra ever went ahead, it would undoubtedly be broadcasted throughout the Underworld. I didn't want the kids to watch me put up a poor showing. Still, I can't beat you in terms of speed, Kiba, I replied. Kiba shook his head. When you boosted your rocket pack and dashed towards me, you were just as swift as I was. Only because I was moving in a straight line. You could still probably dodge me most of the time. I would have to zigzag across the field like you to get past your defenses. But I still can't reliably boost around like that. The best I could do is rocket forward. It's just a matter of getting the hang of it. Just so you know, that power of yours is much more than anything I can muster. And fighting the Red Dragon Emperor isn't easy. I get chills every time we face off. No matter how long I live, it won't be enough. I appreciated the compliments, but all the same, defeating Kiba would be an arduous journey. With the way that he mixes counters, I was never sure where to attack. Lately, Kiba, Gasper, and I have been training together in a durable mock battlefield Azazel and Sir Zex had prepared. It was situated in the basement somewhere in the Grimoire territory in the Underworld. Given the potency of our abilities, Kiba and I had to refrain from going all out. If we were to seriously throw our all into these practice bouts, we could end up destroying the surrounding landscape or piercing it through with innumerable swords. As such, it wasn't easy finding a suitable place for us to train. Thus, Azazel and Sir Zex had given us this arena as a gift. Apparently, it was a reward for how well we had done against Deodora. We had a special magic circle installed at my house to make the jump here directly. Some novel safeguards were placed on it so that the Chaos Brigade wouldn't discover this array. It sounded like high-class demons who participated in raiding games had similar setups, but for us, servants of a younger master who had yet to fight in official matches, this was an unusual exception. Cyra was the only other exception. The other members of the Grimoire Familia used this training field often too. This time, it was men only, so just the three of us had come. Do you think that we're actually getting stronger? I asked Kiba while doing squats. Of course. It feels rude to say this, but you and I have already surpassed the President Akeno. Either one of us could probably defeat the average high-class demon, but we can't afford to let our guard down. Yeah, a lot of people know about our abilities now, huh? They're probably all devising strategies against us. Kiba nodded. Indeed, our performances during our last match had been widely broadcast throughout the Underworld. Any potential opponents were undoubtedly studying our fighting styles to formulate counter strategies. My main weaknesses were that I couldn't respond to powerful attacks before completing my transformation, and that anyone around me would be able to sense my strength building, since my aura increased proportionately with my strength. As soon as someone realized that I was powering up, they would recognize me as a threat and either try to avoid me or run away. What's more, if I went on to needlessly waste my energy, I would be out. If I had to take off after a fleeing opponent, it might be okay to destroy a battlefield in a regular match, but if there were any special rules, like when we had fought the Siege Familia, That wouldn't be so easy. Kiba's main weakness was his low defense, as nothing protected his body. His legs were his strength, but that also made them kind of a vulnerable spot too. If someone were to aim for them, he would be done for. Yeah, strategizing required deep consideration. For example, Kiba began between gulps of his sports drink. There are sacred gears that could slow opponents' feet, so if someone were to counter me with one of those, I would be in a dangerous spot. I hope I never bump into someone like that. But when it comes to actual battle, you never know. An enemy like that was basically Kiba's natural predator. But I had a similar kind of problematic matchup. I'll have to be on alert too, if we ever come across a Dragon Slayer. That's right. Even one hit would be dangerous. The raiding game is all about compatibilities. So if we come across a Dragon Slayer, I'll handle them. I'll leave everyone else for you though, of course. I hadn't encountered a Dragon Slayer yet, but I wondered whether a blow from one of them would hurt as much as Holy Light did. Can I help? Gasper inquired, timidly raising his hand. You're better off working with one of us rather than going at it alone, don't you think? I replied. Kiba nodded. Yeah, Gasper, your powers are best suited to a supporting role, so you can really use them to their full potential when you pair up with another member of the Familia. Being demons, we have to acclimatize ourselves to team battles, and that means covering for each other's shortcomings. It's all well and good for one of us to get stronger, but there's no telling what a single person could do against the whole team. I added. Yeah, you especially need to be cautious, Issei, seeing as you're hoping to branch out and become a king yourself one day. It's game over when the king is taken, right? Yeah, I'm not that stupid. I guess I'll just have to get used to group fights then. But it wouldn't be too bad to be a king like Star Org. Kiba's eyes narrowed a bit in evident thought. We'll have to develop a strategy to address him at some point, by the way. We could try to devise tactics to take him on one-on-one, but if we try to engage him on his terms, we would be eliminated, yeah. This demon life sure is tough. When I become a king, I'll have to remember to be careful. Before we knew it, the three of us were deep in conversation about battle plans. Forcing through every issue blindly wouldn't get me anywhere. If I was going to have a future, then I needed to study like Kiba and the others. Thanks to them, I was starting to figure out how to talk about all these complex problems. Looks like you're wising up to tactics, said a new voice. I looked over my shoulder and found Azazel. Here, dig in. These girls made you some rice balls. We didn't waste a second before stuffing our faces with them. They were so delicious. I was sure Ozzy had made this one. It literally tasted like kindness. Azazel sat beside us as we ate, letting out a chuckle. I see you're toughening up there, Issei. I still need to get stronger if I'm going to be the mightiest of pawns, though. That's what I promised to the Prez. I need to keep my word before I can strike out on my own. By the way, I heard that you're planning to take Ozzy and Zenobia when you plan to go independent. Did Ozzy tell him that? Or Zenobia, maybe? Truthfully, it didn't matter where he'd heard it. Yeah, that sounds about right. Nice going. Well, I promised Ozzy we'd stick together forever, and I wanted to stay with her too. Plus, doing my own demon stuff with Zenobia sounds fun too. I never wanted to leave Ozzy. Azazel patted me roughly on the head. Sure, Issei, but if you're going to be king yourself one day, there's one thing you better remember. What? Azazel's face turned serious. Sacrifice. You'll sometimes have to abandon your own pieces in a raiding game. What will you do then? That will be what tests your worthiness as a king. Are you saying I should forget about helping them? I pressed, but Azazel shook his head. Helping your comrade is fine. If you can save them, you should. But it isn't always possible in real-life match. And seeing as defeated pieces get removed from the field, you'd have to be pretty unlucky to die in a raiding game.
That being said, you might have to abandon critically injured teammates for the good of the team.
That's a pretty harsh call, I muttered. I couldn't abandon my friends. If they were ever in a pinch, I would have rushed to help them as fast as I could.
There's no one in your familia who cares more than you. That will be a liability in future games. Kiba.
Azazel's gaze abruptly turned to my teammate.
Yes. If you were in a match and you had to choose between Riaz and Issei, who would it be? The president.
Kiba answered without hesitation. Yeah, that was the right decision. I would have to hit him over the head if he said otherwise. I wasn't the most important member of our familia. When we were in a raiding game, if we lost our king, it was over.
Everyone else in your group had better realize the same thing. Perhaps it's because your leader is a Gremory, but you're all unusually affectionate with one another. Frankly, you're right at the top of that regard when it comes to demons. You can use that as a weapon, but it's also a hindrance. If your rivals realize that you're not willing to leave your teammates behind, they'll build their strategy around that. And if you start losing because you keep trying to aid one another, your rank will suffer. You better make sure that you're ready to put the good of the team before a single teammate. Sona Citri should have taught you the importance of that when you fought her group over the summer. I'm not telling you to abandon one another in real-life combat. However, if you're going to win raiding games, you will have to do so there. You especially need to understand that if you intend to go independent, Issei. The only one who needs to survive to the end is the king, not your servants.
I need to be willing to give up my familia members, huh? There's no denying that Azazel was right. I had to make sure that I understood that. And if the issue got me anxious when I wasn't even a king, how was the press handling it all? Press, would you abandon Kiba or me? Could you do that? If it means winning a raiding game, I would gladly sacrifice myself. Should the time come, I need to make peace with that. I was scared. The courage to throw away your comrades, to sacrifice them. I wanted to avoid that at all costs. This required some thinking. I had to make sure I knew what to do when the time came. Just what would I decide when I participated in my own matches as a king? First things first, I still need to get promoted. Maybe I was getting ahead of myself. I didn't even know when I'll be able to strike out on my own after all. Vali has said that I would probably become a high-class demon with only a few years. But how could I be sure? There was nothing to do but to keep on improving, day after day. I would keep redoubling my efforts, moving forward one step at a time. That said, our next match was fast approaching. I realized now what I had to do in our familia's next raiding game. I took a deep breath before addressing my two companions. Kiba, Gasper, we had better make sure that we resolve to do whatever it takes. Kiba nodded. You mean to abandon our fallen comrades during the raiding game, when necessary? Yeah, we have to ensure that the press wins above all else. Gasper, his lips still placid with the grains of his rice, responded. Okay, we can do it. Let's all make sure that we're ready to go down with a smile for the press. Still, we can't let ourselves be defeated until we've gone all out first. It would be uncool to try to shrink away from an enemy, so we'll stand up to them and fight, face to face, and only then will we be defeated. My two companions nodded, both of them wearing broad grins. Yup. Alright. If we were going to be knocked out of the fight, then we had to make sure that we went out swinging, for the prez. We couldn't afford to abandon our desire to seize victory either. Azazel watched on beside us as he scratched his cheek. That's cool and all you say, but you gotta do something about the way you fight women. Your boob lingo and dress break techniques might be effective, but if you keep focused on tricks like that, someone's going to work out how to get past you. Those abilities have some glaring shortcomings. What are you gonna do if you're up against a half-naked woman? I'll rejoice. Azazel's shoulders slumped at my answer. Nope, it's hopeless. You're done for. It was true. If a sexy half-naked lady approached before me, I would totally lose control. And that's when they would come to me, once I lowered my guard. I guess I would have to get used to all things erotic. No, that won't work. There was no way I could just charge ahead while ignoring a sexy view. I mean, if there were breasts in front of me, I would simply have to take a look. Well, whatever. Having finished eating the rice balls, I glanced at Kiba and Gasper, both of whom were brimming with energy. Alright, you two, time for another sparring bout, I declared. Yeah, this wasn't the time for thinking, it was time for training. However, as I tried to encourage Kiba to fight me, Azazel interjected.
Issei, come here.
He was wearing a lecherous expression. Clearly, he had come up with some new wild idea. What is it, Teach?
We got another breast dragon test product. Take a look.
Azazel retrieved something from his pocket. What is it? In his hand was a small figurine.
We're doing a Breast Dragon Emperor collaboration with a fast food hamburger chain down in the Underworld. You know, collectible toys bundled with the kids' meals. This one's of you, and the other one's Ria's, your Switch Princess.
The toy did resemble a deformed version of my Balancebreaker armor, and the crimson hair figurine of the Prez was a work of art. It was so cute.
There's a special gimmick if you collect both of them. If you press the one of you to Rias' chest like this.
The Prez's voice rang out. What was this? This was amazing.
See? It makes a sound.
Azazel puffed out his chest with pride. What is this? I won one. Wow. This is going to be a hit. I held the two treasures in my hands, my body trembling in awe. They were amazing. These figures were sacred. I had no idea anything like this was even possible.
Even Sir Zex thought they were incredible. These toys would be epic defining. That's what he said. I love coming up with ideas like this. Listen, Issei, if you want to become a high-class demon, you gotta learn to value revolutionary concepts.
Azazel let out a dazzling laugh. Incredible. I already knew he was genius, but this surpassed all expectations. It was a terrifying notion indeed, building a business on the premise of breasts. No wonder Sir Zex was so happy. The Underworld's future looked bright. Governor Azazel, the most charismatic of all fallen angels. I was so glad we weren't enemies.
Issei, breasts are the stuff of dreams. So how about we show them to the kids? Breasts are capable of fueling most any ambition.
Yeah, there's no beating a breast-based business. I was repeatedly making the Riaz squeal when Azazel's expression turned serious.
Can I entrust Akeno to you?
He questioned. My eyes opened wide in surprise.
You probably already know this, but Akeno hates Barkiel, and the rest of us fallen angels too. With Barkiel here, I'm guessing she won't listen to me. If something happens, I want you to look out for her. I can count on you, right?
Of course, but I still don't fully understand her situation, I answered.
Do you want to know? But if I were going to try to explain, it would sound like I'm trying to rationalize it all from a fallen angel perspective. I am the fallen angel leader after all. Akeno's not liable to be impartial either. You're better off asking Sir Zex or Graphia. They'll be able to give you more of an objective account.
Akeno was a member of the Gremlin Familia. That being the case, it was likely best to ask someone familiar with the circumstances of each member of Rias' house.
You must have realized this by now, seeing as you're living under the same roof as her, and all that, but Akeno is emotionally weak in some areas. She maintains that elegant character most of the time, and the students at Kuo Academy adore her. But once you see past that window dressing, what you got is a teenage girl. You should have seen her when she watched you battle against the Citri Familia. The queen is supposed to be the most composed on the board, but she started acting independently of her king in the middle of the fight.
I vaguely understood what Azazel was saying. Akeno was usually so relaxed and sophisticated, with her oh dear and oh ho ho catchphrases, but every now and then, however, she would show an exceptionally maiden-like side, and at such times, she seemed incredibly fragile. The Vestal of Thunder was a dependable young woman, but I couldn't help thinking that ultimately, she was no different from any other high school girl. At least, that's how I felt. I had no way of knowing whether I was correct. Azazel rested his hand on my shoulder, his eyes melancholy.
There will be times when she shows that side of herself, so make sure you're ready to lend her a hand when she needs it.
What do you mean?
That will be the test of your worth as a man, Issei. Just so you know, a hug and a kiss can work wonders for making a woman feel at ease.
My worth as a man? Wasn't that where I was most lacking? If I was worth anything at all, wouldn't I be getting into all kinds of erotic activities with Ozzy and the Prez? We slept next to one another every single night. Was I completely spineless? Was I incapable of reaching out when the most important spoils was lying directly in front of me? I didn't want to admit it, but could it be true? Whether I was or wasn't, becoming a harem queen was still my goal. I could do it. I would show everyone. Someday, I would be able to handle as many girls as I wanted.
There's also the matter of your Juggernaut drive,
Azazel stated, suddenly changing the subject. I won't use it. I don't want to die.
Yeah, that goes without saying, but you've awakened it now. So I'm thinking of looking into other ways to make use of the powers of the Red Dragon Emperor.
Was that actually possible? How?
Now that your Juggernaut drive has been activated, it should arouse the thoughts of members of the previous boosted gear vessels. I asked Drake to make sure, and it sounds like their negative emotions are trapped into your sacred gear. It's probably easiest to think of it like a curse. They're trying to reach out from the shadows to control you and make you go berserk so the sacred gear can consume your life force.
That's terrifying. Negative emotions? A curse? The sacred gear of mine was like something out of a horror movie. Now that I thought about it, I still didn't understand a whole lot about how my sacred gear worked. I simply used its power when I needed to. It was still a big mystery.
It's said that the friends and families of each successive generation of the Red Dragon Emperor has suffered misfortunes because of the curse. I have a theory, however, that if we can purify those negative emotions, you might be able to bypass your Juggernaut drive while still drawing on a similar level of power. By doing so, your life force would be safe. Pulling it off would mean diving deep into your sacred gear and finding a way to release all that dark emotions of your predecessors that have built up in there.
So, you're saying that I need to soothe the lingering regrets, housed in the sacred gear, and then the new power, something other than my Juggernaut drive, will be born?
Basically, yes. You have to put all the past Red Dragon Emperors to rest. Drake, help him out, would you? That's all well and good, but the memories of the past Red Dragon Emperors are so consumed by darkness that it's risky for me to even approach them. I'm guessing Issei Hyoto, the Breast Dragon Emperor, will take care of that.
This was crazy. I still hadn't had much of a chance to see whether I could pull it off at all. Not giving it a shot meant that I can never use my Juggernaut drive again, though. There seemed like little other option but to believe Azazel's theory and try to find a solution then.
Issei, I have faith in your potential. Every last Red Dragon Emperor was consumed by power and lost their lives because of it. You might be the most untalented Red Dragon Emperor in history, but you're a living embodiment of possibility. I mean, you unlock your balance breaker by touching a woman's breasts, and return to your senses after going berserk thanks to them too. You're a real-life breast dragon, and that's something. It's been a while since a dragon earned himself a new alias. Even if your physical strength and demonic powers are no match for Vali's, or those of other legendary dragons, you can still take a different approach to using the Red Dragon Emperor's unique gifts to get stronger in your own way. All you need is effort, grit, and to forge an unlikely new path.
Right. All I needed to do was put my faith in Azazel, Drake, and myself. I would get stronger and find my own way. And instead of being used by the sacred gear, I would use it. The man who most understood the boosted gear. Yeah, that kind of title will be awesome. I've resumed my training with Kiba and Gasper, more pumped up than ever. Several days had passed since Odin had first joined us in Japan. The members of the Gremry Familia, Azazel, the old man, and Frostvice, were riding a carriage pulled by Odin's 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. It was flying straight through the night sky. What's more, the carriage was huge, probably because the warhorse itself was so large. Kiba, Zenobia, Irina, and Bargiel were soaring outside as escorts. After all, we could be attacked by terrorists or who knew what else at literally any moment.
I love a good Yamamoto, not a Shiko. And there's no beating geisha girls.
That old geezer Odin was chortling to himself, his expression one of total satisfaction. Damn him. And he was using us as abandoned bodyguards. He'd been dragging us all around Japan with this giant warhorse of his. We had been to hostess clubs in Tokyo, an amusement park, and even a sushi restaurant. We were seeing Japan through the eyes of the old clod. Because we were high school students, we were still minors. There were a lot of places we couldn't enter, leaving us stuck behind in the waiting room until we returned. That old fart. Damn him. Had he at least let me enter one of those hostess clubs with him, I wouldn't have hated him so much. Glancing around, I saw that the other club members all looked exhausted. Ozzy was resting her head against my shoulder, sound asleep. Akeno seemed preoccupied. Her aura was practically a warning light telling me not to try to speak to her. Taking care of Odin was sure the pain in the ass. Whenever he got mad, he would say something like, "I can't hear you," or "Azazel, are my breasts ready?" He was unbearable. And yet, he was an important guest, so we had to accompany him everywhere without complaint. Lord Odin, it is almost time for your meeting with the Japanese gods, so please, let's forget about the sightseeing for now. At this rate, we'll both be yelled at when we get home. Rossvice had calmly suffered the old man's indulgences for the past couple days, but she looked to be at the end of her patience, ready to slam her head against the wall.
Jeez, you don't know how to have fun, do you, woman? Relax a little. No wonder you haven't been able to find yourself a man.
This has nothing to do with whether or not I have a boyfriend. I'm not single by choice. She broke into tears again. These Norse folk truly were annoying. Maybe I could come up with some excuse to go home early. With no warning, the warhorse came to an abrupt halt. The carriage lurched forward, taking us with it. We were all caught unprepared. What's going on? A terrorist attack? Rossvice cried out.
How should I know? This kind of thing is never good.
Azazel responded, his voice sounded tense. That noise a moment ago must have been the horse. Something must have happened to that huge creature. I glanced outside the window and found Kiba, Zenobia, and Irina positioned around Bargiel, ready for battle. I still couldn't fly. Sure, I could make my demon wings appear, but I couldn't use them to soar through the air. Even Azazel had made fun of me for that.
It's kind of funny that you unlocked your balance breaker before even learning how to fly.
He had teased. Admittedly, I had done things in a pretty unusual order. The best option was to open my wings while I was in my balance breaker state. Then I could leave the actual flying to Drake. I really needed more training, in flying most of all. No matter how far I boosted my powers, if I couldn't do that much, I would just end up letting all those kids down in the underworld. I opened up the window and looked outside with the present and the others. At the same time, I began my balance breaker countdown. There was no telling what might happen, so it was best to plan for the worst. There was a young man floating in front of us. He was a complete pretty boy, with a vaguely sinister cast to his features. He was wearing a robe similar to the one Odin donned for formal occasions. This one, however, was black in color. Having presumably recognized who this guy was, Rossvice wore a stunned expression. Azazel even clicked his tongue. Who is this guy? The man lifted his cloak, sneered, and called out. Greetings, everyone. I am Loki, the malicious god of the north. Malicious god? If he's from the north, does that mean he came from the same place as Odin? Everyone but me was on edge, as if watching in disbelief. Azazel unfurled his black wings and stepped out from the carriage. Loki, one of the Norse gods, the press whispered by my side. So, he is a god? Seriously? In that case, he really is from the same realm as Odin. What was he doing here? Something told me that whatever it was, it couldn't be good.
If it isn't Lord Loki, strange seeing you here. Do we have business? The chief god of the Norse pantheon is riding with us in this carriage here. However, I'm guessing you already knew that.
Azazel said calmly. Loki crossed his arms as if he responded.
It's painful to watch. Our esteemed leader, the head of our great mythology system, is turning his back on us to have dealings with beings from other faiths. I came here to put a stop to it.
What a declaration. He sounded totally like a villain. At this, Azazel's tone of voice changed into one filled with anger.
Don't you beat around the bush, Loki.
I knew how much Teach enjoyed his peaceful everyday life. He must have seriously resented anyone who threatened it. Evidently amused, Loki laughed.
If it isn't the governor of the fallen angels, I wouldn't normally design to meet with you or the other demon companions of yours. Regrettably, I have no choice this time. All of you will be purged along with Odin. It's okay for you to interact with beings from other systems, but not Odin. It seems a little contradictory from where I'm standing.
There isn't anything wrong with destroying beings from the opposite organizations.
I don't accept your proposal for peace. It was your system that invaded our soil, spreading the word of your repugnant holy Bible. There's no point in explaining it to me about that. Bring it up to Michael or the late Christian god.
Azazel replied, scratching his head.
In any event, Odin's fraternizing with the other gods of Japan cannot stand. At this rate, Ragnarok, which we all should be eagerly awaiting, may never come to fruition. What do you hope to gain about training information on Yggdrasil?
Azazel pointed at Loki.
Let me ask you something. Are you working with the Chaos Brigade? But I guess I shouldn't expect a trickster god like you to answer truthfully, huh?
Loki seemed amused by the inquiry.
I'm disgusted that you would conflate me with those witless terrorists. I came here my own volition. Ophis has nothing to do with this.
Only now did Azazel relax.
So, you aren't with them. I guess this is a separate issue then. Okay, old man. This must be the thing you were going on about.
Just as Azazel glanced back towards the carriage, Odin and Rosvice stepped out. Odin activated a magic circle beneath his feet, using it to float into the air.
Yes. We still have a few stubborn holdouts. Fools like this clown.
He said while raking his fingers through his beard. With a flash, Rosvice's business suit changed into a set of armor. Lord Loki, you're overstepping your bounds. Showing aggression to your chief god is unforgivable. If you have a disagreement, you should raise it during an official council session. Loki, however, didn't show any intention of hearing out Rosvice.
Mere Valkyries should remain silent, for I am speaking to Odin.
Are you set on continuing this course of action, which exceeds the bounds of Norse mythology? Faced with a clear threat, Old Man Odin answered coolly.
That's right. Shirjek and Azazel are 1,000 times more interesting conversationalists than you. I'm curious about Japanese Shintoism, and they're interested in our Yggdrasil. Once we officialize relations, I'm thinking about starting up some cultural exchanges.
Loki's lips contorted into a bitter smile.
I see. How foolish of you. Perhaps we should welcome the Twilight of the Gods here and now then.
A chill ran down my spine. My skin began to tingle, in the face of an overwhelming sense of hostility. Loki stared across at us. No, at Odin, with raw spitefulness.
Shall I take that as a declaration of war?
Azazel questioned. Loki scoffed.
Take it how you will.
Out of nowhere, a powerful wave of energy slammed into him. I glanced around to realize that Zenobia had struck with the rondel. The holy sword was emanating a powerful aura.
Victory goes to the one that makes the first move. Isn't that what they say?
She said that so calmly. Wow, Zenobia. Talk about a flying start.
I guess it wasn't particularly effective, though.
She added quickly after a moment.
I should have expected as much from a Norse god.
Indeed, Loki continued to float there as if nothing had occurred. Seriously? Zenobia's attack didn't hurt him one little bit?
A holy sword? I'll grant you that is immense power, but you need quite a bit more to take on a god. You might as well have struck me with a gentle breeze.
Kiba called forth one of his holy demon swords, while Irina similarly formed a blade of holy light. Loki regarded this with clear amusement.
How futile. I'm a god. Attacks from angels and demons are nothing to me.
With that, he slowly raised his hands towards us. I could sense it instinctively. There was some unknown force building up in his palm. We would be in trouble if he unleashed that energy.
Welsh Dragon, Balance Breaker.
My countdown had finished. A red aura wrapped around me, solidifying into a suit of armor. Drake, I'll leave the flying to you.
Alright, partner.
I leap from the carriage just as my balance breaker activated, accelerating towards Loki at incredible speed.
Jet.
A sound echoed from the jewels stunning my armor. Just as the propulsion unit on my back ignited, I raced towards Loki, but he easily avoided my oncoming punch. My fist flew clean past his nose. Prez! I cried out. I need a promotion. With Reyes' consent, I promoted to a queen. I could feel the added strength flowing through me.
I see. I almost forgot. The Red Dragon Emperor is among your members. Your strength is to be commended. However...
Particles of brilliant light gathered around Loki's hands. I could see them with my naked eyes. He was compressing an overwhelming mass of power, preparing to launch it straight at me. A direct hit from that would be bad.
You aren't quite ready to take on a god.
I hurled the most powerful dragon shot I could muster into the energy speeding out of Loki's hands. The two energies collided midair, ricocheting violently off each other. The impact caused an explosive burst of wind, buffeting me and the others. I had put my all into that attack, yet Loki had broken through it as if it was nothing. This must have been the might of a god. Red smoke rose up from Loki's hands. It looked like my dragon shot had managed to do something at the very least. Loki glanced down on his hand, his lips curling in a grin.
I wasn't exactly holding back just then. Interesting. You don't know how happy I am to see this. It's certainly worthy of a good laugh.
I wasn't happy at all. Loki was definitely going to be a formidable opponent. From the looks of it, even the powers of the Red Dragon Emperor will have a hard time matching this full-blown deity. The present Akeno unfurled their demon wings before jumping out of the carriage. The press was engulfed in a crimson aura, ready for battle.
Crimson hair. The House of Gremmy, I presume. The blood of the present Demon King, yes? A coterie of the two fallen angel leaders, one regular angel, and a horde of demons, and the Red Dragon Emperor. For an armed escort, you've gone a little overboard, Odin.
And yet you still came, fool that you are. All this protection was the right call. Loki nodded at Odin, the smirk on his face widening.
Very well. Then I, too, shall call for support.
With that, he spread his cloak and bellowed up into the sky.
Show yourself, my dear son.
There was a short pause, followed by a rift opening up into the air. What's going on? Who did he summon? Appearing from the spatial rift was an ashen-colored dog. No, a wolf. It was gigantic, at least 10 meters tall from its head to tail, and it positioned itself directly in front of us. What is this? My whole body was filled with terror just by looking at the wolf. The moment his gaze fell on me, I was unable to move a muscle, completely paralyzed. A cold shock coursed through my flesh. Fear, murderous intent, and horror gripped my heart. It was freaky, My hands were actually shaking. Forcing myself to look around, I realized that the other member of Rias' familia were equally affected. Even the most dauntless of us were terrified by this overwhelming wolf. What on earth is it? The wolf showed no sign of moving. It simply continued to glower at us with its piercing eyes.
That creature is dangerous, partner. If you can, you should avoid fighting it.
Even Drake, the fabled Red Dragon Emperor, was wary. That thing was no run-of-the-mill enemy. It looked more intimidating than Loki himself.
This is bad. Everyone, keep clear of that huge wolf. Issei, fall back.
As Hazel looked more uneasy than I've ever seen him before, our bold and daring teacher, who hadn't so much as flinched when facing the old Demon Kings, was now visibly scared. Teach, what is that wolf? I asked.
Fenrir.
Azazel responded. His voice sounded as though it had been squeezed out of him.
The God Eater.
Every last one of us was startled by this revelation, yet there was no doubting that it was true.
Fenrir. Impossible. Not here.
This is bad. Kiba and the press seemed on edge. Evidently, they heard of this wolf before. Clearly, this beast was dangerous, but there had to be more to it than that.
Issei, this is one of the most evil and dangerous monsters in existence. His fangs are capable of killing a god. Not even your armor will be able to protect you.
Seriously? This wolf is really that dangerous? Capable of slaying a god? How is that at all fair? No wonder Drake told me to steer clear from him. I had a hunch that even if we were attacked together, it wouldn't be enough.
That's right,
Loki said calmly as he patted Fenrir's back.
You should be cautious. This is one of the greatest creatures I've ever developed. His fangs can strike down a god. I've never had a chance to test it, but they should be equally potent against gods or similar beings from any other religious systems. And they're just as fatal to high-class demons and legendary dragons too.
Loki leveled an accusatory finger at the Prez.
To be honest, I don't care much for the idea of ceasing Fenrir on anyone outside the Norse pantheon, but having him taste the blood of outsiders might be a good learning experience for him.
That bastard. He can't seriously be planning to... Loki interrupted my thought to confirm my morbid suspicion.
A lick of Demon King blood will surely be of use to Fenrir. Go.
In the dark of the night, the ashen-fallen wolf let out a terrifying howl. That noise was enough to make our bodies tremble. Its sound was so resonant that our hearts were caught in rapt attention. There came a burst of wind. The wolf, which had been right in front of me, was gone. At that moment, my body moved faster than my thoughts.
Jet.
Not on my watch. I wouldn't let him. Not the Prez, not my beloved.
Don't you touch her!
I dashed to place myself in front of the Prez before the wolf could reach her, and thrust my fist right into that beast's face. Even I wasn't shocked by what I've done. My body had basically moved by itself. All I knew was that the wolf was going for the Prez. My only thought was to protect her, and before I knew it, I had dealt the creature one hell of a punch. Issei? Riaz looked just as astonished as I was. Prez, are you okay? You aren't hurt? No, I'm alright, thanks to you. I breathed a sigh of relief. I wasn't entirely sure how, but it looked like I had been able to detect her. There was no way I would let that damn wolf gnaw my Prez to death. As for Fenrir himself, he had been staring at me coolly since I hit him, but he took no other action. Was my punch ineffective? Damn, what a sturdy monster. Gah! Blood spurted from my lips. What? Only then did I notice something was wrong with my body. I glanced down and saw a gaping hole in my armor, around my abdomen. Upon realizing what had happened, I vomited up more blood. Excruciating pain coursed through me. The present Akeno shrieked in unison. My stomach felt hot. Trust me when I say it hurt. When had I taken a hit? Glancing back at the wolf, I realized that his left forepaw was drenched in crimson. Had he clawed through my armor at the same time that I hit him in the face? My entire body staggered in midair. Just before I could collapse, Kiba caught me. Issei, hang in there. Ozzy, heal him now. Issei, hurry. Our healer, Azia, cried out to me from the carriage. She was generating a healing aura in her hands. She must have been trying to heal me from a distance. I don't think so. Even if only for a second, you matched Fenrir's movements, Red Dragon Emperor. Truly frightening. It's best you're dealt with now. Loki motioned to give Fenrir further instructions. This was bad. I wouldn't be able to escape. If I did, the press would end up taking the blow. I couldn't allow that. I had to protect her. I didn't want to die. I was terrified. More than anything, though, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if Rhea's Grummery perished instead. Loki! Azazel hurled a spear of light at the god, while Bakyo unleashed a barrage of holy lightning. Even without Fenrir, 2 fallen angel gods can't hope to defeat me. A magic circle of a design I'd never seen before formed in the sky, shielding Loki. Azazel and Bakyo's strikes were easily blocked. Norse magic. Right. Their spells are more advanced than those used by Christian religion. Their entire system is rich in sorcery. Azazel spat in disgust. The 2 fallen angel bigwigs had attacked simultaneously, but even that hadn't worked. Could a god really be this powerful? In that case, I'll use the same techniques. Rosvice deployed several magic circles, similar to which Loki had just used, releasing a seamlessly inexhaustible magic attack. It was a full-on barrage. What incredible destructive output. Rosvice was clearly quite the fighter. Then again, she was Odin's bodyguard, so it wasn't all that surprising that she was so exponential in combat. Amazing. I had no idea that she was so skilled in magic, I thought. Loki's defensive magic circle deployed to shield his whole body, protecting him from each of Rosvice's attacks. Not even the same kind of magic could get through to him. My turn. Loki swung his arm to one side. Fenrir's murderous aura increased in turn. The wolf's cold, emotionless eyes fixed themselves squarely on us. Konako and Zenobia stepped in to shield me and the Prez. I wanted to tell them to stop, that it was pointless. That wolf had pierced clean through my armor. They wouldn't be able to stand against him. My friends were about to get themselves killed. I couldn't stand it. At this rate, we would all be annihilated. We couldn't meet our ends like this. Just as all seemed hopeless, a brilliant flash overtook Aulaus. It pierced through the wolf practically at the speed of light. Half dimension. The space around Fenrir began to distort. The creature had been boxed in and rendered unable to reach us. Nonetheless, he quickly began to fight against the trap with his fangs and claws. A silver light streaked down from above, settling between the wolf and us. Issei Hyodo, are you alright? Vali? Yeah, in front of us was none other than the White Dragon Emperor, Vali. I thought I recognized that attack, and sure enough, it had been him. Vali's technique was capable of having any target within range, yet Fenrir was so powerful that all it seemed to accomplish was restraining the creature for a few moments. Hey, is the breast dragon dying? Damn, I can't even tell if he's super strong or super weak anymore. Accompanying Vali was the figure riding atop a golden cloud, Biko. What are these two doing here? I wondered. The White Dragon Emperor. Loki seemed truly excited by Vali's entrance. Greetings, Loki, god of evil. I'm Vali, the White Dragon Emperor, and I'm here to slaughter you. The declaration didn't look to ruffle Loki in the slightest. Rather, he seemed pleased. 2 heavenly dragons are more than enough for me. I think I'll fall back for now. So declaring, Loki recalled Fenrir. With a twirl of his cloak, the air distorted around the Norse god, enveloping him in the creature. But hear this. I will return on the day of your meeting with the gods of this land, and I shall put a stop to your plans, Odin. Just as Loki and his wolf made their exit, my consciousness too began to leave me. I had lost a lot of blood. Ozzy was bent over me when I came to, using her sacred gear to heal my injury. Her warm green aura flowed through me, taking away the agony that had been racking my body. Thanks, Ozzy. I managed weakly, looking into her eyes. Seeing that I had woken up, Ozzy shed a tear. Issei, thank goodness. She wasted no time in embracing me. You didn't expect me to die and leave you all alone, did you? I replied, hugging her back. I'm glad that you're alright, Issei, came Konoko's soft voice. Had she been stuck by my side too? Her hands were wreathed in ki, so she must have been using her sage magic abilities to strengthen my body's recovery. Thank you, Konoko, I said, patting her on the head. Meow, Issei. Yeah, I'm okay now. Where are the present the others? It was just the three of us in the carriage. Konoko answered. Riaz is talking to everyone outside, including the White Dragon Emperor. Right. Vali showed up towards the end of our encounter with Loki. I carefully stood and peeked out from the carriage. It had already landed in a park near Kuo Academy. As it was the middle of the night, no one else was around. While making my way to the Prez, Azazel, Odin, and the others, I heard Vali talking. I'm guessing you're going to need to defeat Loki, if there's any chance of Odin's talk being a success. He cast a gaze over everyone. Your assembled ranks in the Red Dragon Emperor won't be enough to surpass Loki and Fenrir. And given the heroes' faction constant incursions, the Underworld, Heaven, and Valhalla all have their hands full. They won't be able to devote any more resources to help. None of us could argue that point. Vali then turned his gaze to me and flashed me a grin. Noticing that, everyone looked in my direction too. Issei, how are you feeling? I'm alright now, Prez. More importantly, though, I narrowed my eyes at Vali. Only now that I realized that Biko and his companion with the Holy King Sword, Arthur, I think his name was, were standing behind him. It looked like the three of them were waiting to see how I would act. Are you saying that you can beat him? I questioned in a low voice. Vali shrugged. Unfortunately, in my current state, I'm not strong enough to fight both Loki and Fenrir together. All that tough guy talk a second ago, and he was no match for Loki either. However, Vali continued, still staring right at me, it would be a different story if two heavenly dragons fought together. Everyone, myself included, gasped at this suggestion. We weren't the only ones either. Vali's two companions were equally stunned. Was there any other way to react? I don't think anyone could have anticipated that Vali would propose that. We were so taken aback that no one responded. I'm saying I'll fight beside you this once, Issei Hyoto,